The house of Putin, Kremlin, is under attack. So, who did it? Because Russians claim that these were Ukrainians, but to be honest, I do not think so. At the same time, Russians are issued the final warning as Ukrainians started to activate their counteroffensive activities along multiple front lines, and they brought allegedly 70,000 soldiers. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. And so today we have these three battle babushkas who are saying, Elon Musk, take away your Starlink from Ukraine. Go away, we don't need you there. And to be honest, it feels like something innocent because these are just babushkas, but then you think about it. Elon Musk and Starlink, they started to have some confrontations with Ukraine. So maybe Elon Musk, after all, he did listen to battle babushkas. But okay, another major news that happened recently is that the house of Putin, the Kremlin, was under attack. But don't worry, even though you might have heard about this news already, today I'll give you some more details which you might have missed, so you can make your own decision who was behind this attack. Allegedly there were 2 drones, which hit Kremlin with the interval of 16 minutes. But if you take a look at other videos from different angles, you can see that during the moment of the attack before and after, the lights around Kremlin were suspiciously turned off. It almost feels like that somebody did not want the security cameras to take all the appropriate footage. But then it gets even more interesting. If we zoom in at this angle of the incident, we can see 2 people climbing the roof exactly at the time of this loud noise. And then we received the footage from the next morning, which shows that there are absolutely no evidence of this incident on the roof of Kremlin. Which kinda allows us to assume that the purpose of these 2 people might have been to clear the roof of all the evidence. There was even another drone spotted in the southeast of Moscow, just to make it look like that there is a massive drone attack against Moscow. And the very next day, the Russian police started putting these fences around Kremlin and the Red Square not to let anyone inside this place. Obviously, Russia immediately blamed Ukraine for this attack, and they said the retribution will be extreme. You dared to target our president, so do not expect any sign of weakness from us anymore. And in response to that, President Zelensky said, we are fighting on our own territory. We first have to end war here. We are not even planning to go outside of our borders. It is not even our responsibility to punish Putin. There will be a Hague tribunal. And so, as you can see, everything is pretty suspicious. A lot of details are missing, and Russians were so extremely quick to jump to conclusions. It almost feels like that they needed something this level of being eventful in order to justify even their bigger response in the near future, especially because the victory parade of May 9th is coming very soon. And right now, without a doubt, this victory parade will be very crucial for the history of this war, and I will be live streaming this, so please mark your calendars. And if you don't want to miss any extremely crucial events that might happen during this day, just please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. You can also put notifications so you don't want to miss whenever I start my live stream. Feel free to also check my second channel, The Russian Dude Clips, where I post under 1-minute summaries every single day. The link will be down below. Alright, and now let's really briefly talk about the Western support to Ukraine, and then we'll talk about updates from the south and the east of Ukraine and the acceleration of Ukrainian counteroffensive activities along multiple front lines. And first of all, as you can see from this picture, here is just one of Canadian Leopard 2 tanks which was pledged to Ukraine and is already being used on the front lines. Then let's talk about Canadian neighbor America, which recently pledged another $300 million military support package to Ukraine, which will include howitzers, ammunition, including ammunition for HIMARS. And speaking about the HIMARS, right here we have a video of a Ukrainian officer responsible for using these systems, and he is saying that all the claims that Russians are destroying these systems so easily are fake. He showed the HIMARS in action, and he also showed the storage where Ukrainians put them when HIMARS is not in use, and he said that there are almost no losses for these machines. And as always, the entire video with English subtitles will be available on my Patreon, the link is down below. Alright, our next stop brings us to Finland, where President Zelensky met with the president of this country, Sauli Niinistö, and they were basically talking about the upcoming Ukrainian counteroffensive, and President Zelensky was asking Finland to provide them with some planes. And ultimately, the president of Czech Republic, Petr Pavel, has left a message whenever he was visiting Ukraine on one of Ukrainian military vehicles that Russians, you should better go home. This is your last chance. Pretty much saying that this is the final warning for Russians, because all European countries, they started supporting Ukraine in this war. The weapons, the military vehicles are already in the country, the counteroffensive is inevitable, and Ukraine will win. And he basically hopes that the Russian people will understand that this is not their war. This is the war of Putin, who decided to do something before he goes. And now let's quickly see what happened in the south of Ukraine in the last 24 hours, and then we'll go to the east. And first of all, a big reservoir located in Krasnodar, very close to Crimean bridge, has been set on fire. And as you can see from this map, the closest distance from the Ukrainian front lines is 270 kilometers, which allows us to assume either Ukrainians used the long-range missiles, most likely not, but most likely this was a Ukrainian drone or a drone by Russian resistance. Then we go back to Crimean Peninsula, and as you can see from this video, there has been a Russian air defense system which has been active in Feodosia. Moving more to the north, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Ukrainians continue to attempt to cross Dnipro River and engage Russians in combat activities on the left side of Kherson region. And in response to Ukrainian military activity against Russian military personnel, Russians once again started attacking civilian targets in Kherson. For example, as you can see from this picture, the very last supermarket located in Kherson has been severely damaged by Russians. I don't think it will ever make sense to me, and I have no idea how Russian Z-patriots, they still believe Russian propaganda and Putin's narrative. It's like, Russians, we came to rescue you poor Ukrainians in Kherson. We're gonna protect you from Ukrainian Nazis, but just let us destroy your last supermarket, so you don't have access to food. I mean, how much sense does this make? Now, as promised, let's quickly talk about the situation in the east, and then we'll talk about the massive increase in counteroffensive activities by Ukrainians along the entire front line. And first of all, according to the same report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians tried to engage Ukrainians along Kupiansk-Svatove-Crimean front line with absolutely no success. But we do have a claim by the leader of Wagner, Evgeny Prigozhin, that Russians were able to advance 160 meters inside Bakhmut, losing 103 Wagner soldiers. Both of these numbers are provided by Prigozhin himself. And so, if we take into consideration that right now there is at least 50-50 between Wagner soldiers and Russian conventional army inside Bakhmut, which means that the losses of Russians at least are twice higher. And just using simple math, Russians lost more than 200 soldiers advancing 160 meters, meaning that there is more than 1 casualty per meter advancement inside Bakhmut. Then we go a little bit to the south, and as you can see from this video, Ukrainians were able to destroy a big Russian warehouse of ammunition located in Mospine, deep inside Donetsk region. Our next stop brings us to Nevelske, which is located very close to Donetsk city, and as you can see right here, a Ukrainian drone operator was able to destroy 3 out of 4 Russian tanks using only 3 drones. And to be honest, I think so far this has been the cheapest way for Ukrainians to destroy millions of dollars of military equipment of Russians, and only using one single soldier. This is just incredible. The full version of this video as always will be available on my Patreon. There is still 1 week of free access. You can unlock hundreds of other uncensored footage, and the link will be down below. And even though this particular event happened just several days ago, in the last 24 hours, Ukrainians were also able to destroy even more military vehicles of Russians, specifically 1 tank, 6 armored personnel carriers, and 16 artillery systems. And in addition to that, Ukrainians were able to intercept 21 out of 26 Shahid drones. But the most important thing of recent days is that Ukrainians significantly increased their counteroffensive activities along multiple front lines, and Russian propagandists, they acknowledge this as well. We first of all have General of the Ukrainian army Mr. Syrsky, who said that Ukrainians, besides repelling Russian attacks in Bakhmut, they engaged them in counteroffensive. Then Russian propagandists claim that Ukrainians started attacking along Avdiivka. But wait, there is more. Russian propagandists also say that Ukrainians started attacking to the south of Orikhiv, and we obviously cannot forget about Ukrainians who already started successfully crossing Dnipro River and engaging Russians on the other side of Kherson region. One of the very first comments about this situation came to us from the main infiltrator of Russia inside Donetsk region, Denis Pushilin, who said that he is not certain whether Ukrainian counteroffensive will begin in May, but he knows it will happen. Then we obviously have the leader of Wagner, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who is in constant contradiction with the Ministry of Defense of Russia. Previously, he said that he thinks that Ukrainians will launch their counteroffensive before May 15th, but now he says that it has already started. And even though, according to him, Ukrainians are only in the beginning stages of their counteroffensive, the next active stage will be engaged sooner than we all anticipate. We even have videos like this from obviously undisclosed locations, where a lot of Ukrainian soldiers assemble in one single place, and guess what? Obviously, to engage the counterattack. And in confirmation of this, according to Russian media and Russian propagandists, Ukrainians are bringing a lot of soldiers closer to their front lines, and specifically in some particular areas there are concentrations of Ukrainian forces of as many as 70,000 people. And speaking about the Russian propagandists, allegedly they were given the new instructions to talk seriously about Ukrainian counteroffensive, because previously they were saying, Ukrainians counteroffensive, those things do not exist in any universe in the world. But now they will talk about that, yes, we should treat this attack seriously. We hope our Russian soldiers are prepared. We hope that we will win this war, because Ukrainians will be pushing very hard. But in one way or another, all of us we should be still very careful about assuming that this might be the final Ukrainian attack. It might come in stages, they might liberate big territories, but maybe the war will not be over as a result of this specific counterattack. And this idea is also specifically emphasized by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba, who's pretty much saying the same. Please be careful about assuming that this is the ultimate counteroffensive. But pretty much yes, it already started happening. In the near future we might see some very big territories liberated at once, just like we saw with Kharkov and Kherson last year. And if you don't want to miss any of these events, because they will happen very fast, just please consider subscribing to my channel. It only takes one click. The best way to support my work is through my Patreon. You can also become my channel member and unlock exclusive channel badges and emojis, or you can just simply use a PayPal link. Everything can be found to the right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи, and see you tomorrow.